Welcome to the podcast, The Next Big Thing. I'm your host, Keith D. Terry, a consultant, a coach, and a serial entrepreneur. The mission here is to teach, inspire, and to motivate. We're here to unveil the captivating stories of triumph, resilience, and the secret recipes of success shared by some pretty remarkable entrepreneurs and individuals. You know, the kind of stories that ignite a fire within you, pushing you to reach for the stars and helping you discover the path to financial freedom. But hey, we don't want this adventure to be a solo one. Join our community, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you like what you hear today, spread the love by sharing this with your friends. After all, greatness is meant to be shared. So fasten your seatbelts, dear listeners, because the next big thing is about to take on a thrilling ride through the world of success, and we're just getting started. In today's episode, I am excited because we're going to talk about entrepreneurship. And in this particular one, it's titled From Idea to Reality. And our guest today is Mr. Thomas Wade, founder and CEO of DatumNexus Incorporated. How you doing, Thomas?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Oh, great. But before I formally introduce you to him, I just want to take this moment to kind of put in context the world that I believe this gentleman is playing in, and how massive it is, and how he is an innovator on the cutting edge. You know, the history of data integrity, data validation and verification has been an essential process in the field of data management for many years. I like history. And so if you go back to the 1950s and 60s, the early data processing, during this period, computers were just coming in, data processing was moving from manual systems to electronic systems. And as you can imagine, human error was kind of popping up. Then you had the 70s, the emergence of data management systems. With this, you had the development of data management broad-based systems. Then you moved into the 80s and 90s, and you had quality management systems, what they call TQMs, gained prominence during this period. As we advanced into the 2000s, we saw the advancement of technology and the emergence of specialized data validation tools. Then you go into the 2010s, the 2020s, and here we have exceptional growth in data. We have coupled with advancement in big data analytics. They pose challenges, and this is what makes me excited about today's conversation. And today, I was visiting DatumNexus's website and reading their materials, and we all know that data validation is a critical component to governments, to every business now. And what I found is that there was a study by Ernst Young that mentioned that 53% of all M&A deals fail to meet expectations because of data integrity. And so that leads me to get really excited about this conversation we're about to have with Mr. Thomas Wade, who is the founder and CEO of DatumNexus. Thomas's background, he's an attorney who spent many years in this industry, and he's the brainchild behind DatumNexus. And I think I'll let you kind of bring your resume and your experience to the forefront. But our speaker today has a he was in there working. And so, Mr. Thomas Wade, welcome to the show. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, and thank you very much for having me. And you couldn't have done a better lead-in, especially when you were talking about the history, because a lot of people ask me, how did I get interested in this sort of thing, and I would have to tell them it probably happened when I was 5 years old. Oh no, for real. My great grandfather was a bag printer. And he was also the church's printer, where he would print the bulletins, the tithing envelopes, which is very important in the Black community. And my job was to take, the paper and to roll the manual printer for him, right, and fold everything up. Well, as I became older, this fascination with paper never stopped, because then, as I got older, let's say you just take a blank piece of paper, and let's say it's 10 pages, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, the difference between a paper and a document at that time was the ink that got on it. Because once I took a blank piece of paper and I put ink on it, it became a document. And then more importantly, when I signed it, it became a contract. Now that paper is valuable,
Okay.
right? It went from nothing to value because of the characters that were on it. And so then, you fast forward a few years, I'm, getting older, and you in the business world, and a lot of times, being an attorney, a lot of times on the civil side, people are going into court because their interpretation of what was on that once blank piece of paper,
right,
that had characters on it that was executed, now we're disagreeing over it, right? So,
gotcha.
so I've always
well before you jump in, see, I knew our audience would get a really passionate Thomas Wade. So before we go there, let's talk a little bit about your beginnings. Where are you from? Where you come from? You said you talked about your grandfather and
my great grandfather.
Your great grandfather. Where are you coming from? Where are you born?
Yeah.
Let's talk a little about you.
Well, I was born in Kentucky, but I was raised in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Okay.
And I came up, doing integration, segregation, integration, probably in that class of people where we actually, at one part of our lives, went to school and it was segregated, then they got integrated. And I'm telling this part of the story because as I talk about my team, it's going to trip you out as to how it was put together. But I spent a lot of time, back during that time with my great grandparents. And like I said, he was a printer. And so we didn't have computer games or whatever. So whatever was in his office, that was my toy. So these manual printers and all of that stuff and the mimeograph paper, I spent many a days just playing and learning how to type on his old Remington. And so I was just fascinated that, wait a minute, I can think something and I can put this alphabet on a piece of paper, and then all of a sudden this blank piece of paper means something to somebody, right?
Right.
And so now, ironically, what I found myself doing with the technologies out there now is reversing the process. Now I'm saying, hey, what if I can take the characteristics with the characters on a blank piece of paper, which represents the thought of somebody, right? What if I can reverse that process, disintegrate all of that, into particles, right? Datum, the smallest part of data,
mm-hmm.
and reconstruct it into an analytical tool that can take what you were thinking.
So all of this, so you became an attorney. You saw a problem, but yet this seed that was planted when you were young was alive. So help the audience to understand where the idea, how you saw this problem, because you're an attorney working on getting things done. I'm sure you had clients like me. Yeah. I'm paying you top dollar to get the results. So let's talk a little about the early years.
The part of me getting involved in this technology piece, that's an interesting story. What I noticed was I've had the opportunity to work on a major acquisition, and during that time, you would read articles in the Wall Street Journal. You would see like Price Waterhouse would do these surveys. They would say, you know what, these companies are doing all of these mergers. And they would talk to these CEOs about what drove these mergers. But the complaint was, I'm not realizing the value of the merger. We buying this company for whatever strategic reason, but I'm not realizing the value of it. So, I was always somehow in the room with the paper. So I would walk in and, you see a deal and you seeing boxes from the floor to the ceiling. And so I'm looking and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm like, it's a lot of risk and stuff in these boxes, but it's a monumental task to go through it. And so when I would read these articles, like, wait a minute, man, they're complaining about they can't get the value out of their deal. And I'm saying, well, the reason that you can't get the value out of your deal is because you can't integrate this massive amount of content and information into this new entity that you're trying to create. Because you, in other words, it's like a virus. You bringing in a problem, and so you buying a company in order to let's say strategically get more customers or strategically give you some type of advantage. But when you bring these documents and paper into your organization, without validating and verifying it and identifying the risk in it, you just complicated your problem. And so, like, on your lead off, when you said, I think it's on our website, where we said Ernst & Young, and this is recently,
right,
said that 53% of all acquisitions, they don't do well. And my hypothesis is they don't do well because they don't have the wherewithal and the capability of being able to take massive amounts of information that's stored on massive amounts of documents and understanding it and getting it into a system to where the technology not only thinks, it reads like a lawyer, it thinks like it thinks like a CIO, and identifies the risk of a CEO. And so I'm like, hey, we can create a platform that can do this. And that's where the idea came from standing in the room, from my grandfather turning that to being a grown ass man standing in the room, boxing from the floor to the ceiling.
I hear you.
What are you gonna do with this paper?
Well, let's talk a little bit about your journey. I think people need to understand what DatumNexus is. It's a wonderful name, and I'm sure it has a genesis. And I got a ton of questions. So let's start there with, let's talk a little bit about the journey, because I'm sure that's going to take you through to the name. So you had the idea, and then, let's not spend too much time on, what you had to do, but let's talk about the journey. You had this idea. How did you go about propping up the company in the beginning?
I was walking down the hall of a major corporation, and there was a discussion being had because there was an acquisition taking place. And somebody said, well, there's no way we can tell you what we have here and here. And I literally backed up, walked backwards, and I said, oh, I can get you that information. And at that time, I'm going to leave a lot of that story out. But the question was posed to me. It said, well, the decision makers that were making the deal said, look, we'll do this, but we want him to be responsible for the data. And at the time, I'm working in a legal capacity, but my hobby was doing databases and analyzing data because I love finding out what was on the paper.
Okay.
Right? So I'm walking down the hallway and somebody's saying, like, it's a lot of paper. We don't know what's on it. I do, because the whole while I had put together a little small team. I'm like, I got an experiment. And so then when I walked back and said, I can give you that, the gentleman came out and said, are you sure you can provide that info? I said, yeah. He said, how long would it take you? I said, well, give me a couple of, a few hours, a couple of days. No. It's going to take 30 days. All right, fine. Okay. So then the acquirer said, look, we want to do this, but going forward, we want this gentleman to be responsible for the data. And they asked me, well, Thomas, can you be responsible for the data? And I said, well, not in the capacity that I am right now. And that's how my first company started.
Oh, wow.
It was called Pure Data Corp. And I said,
Pure Data
Corp. To give them Pure Data Corp, right? And so I worked in it. It was a mom and pop idea, and the technology wasn't quite as advanced as it is now. And so eventually, Pure Data Corp, I told you about, the idea of somebody taking a blank piece of paper and putting the thought on it, right? So then my idea, like when I saw where the market was going and people couldn't understand it, I'm like, wow, you got to reverse the process. What if I can take the thought off the paper and analyze it, right? And how would I do that? Well, you take it to the smallest element, datum.
Gotcha.
And you break, that's the smallest particle of data is data.
So you must really be happy with what's happening now with all of the AI and data that's proliferating all around us.
I wouldn't say that I'm happy. I think my response is, oh, you all finally figuring it out?
Okay.
To me, because I'm the kid that I've been fascinated with something hitting paper, turning it into an idea all my life.
Gotcha.
So now this AI,
Gotcha.
it's coming along,
Gotcha.
But in any event, what has happened is the technology allowed me to create an organization that can go through millions of pages And what AI does, I can say, while you're going through this page, I want you to read it like a lawyer, analyze it like a CIO, and find the strategies of risk like a CEO in a nanosecond.
Gotcha.
And so that, so from the AI perspective, it I can, that when I backed up down that hallway and I had Pure Data Corp, I managed the project. I had to manage a project with 20 attorneys, and it took 20 attorneys 3 years to go through, let's say, 15,000 files.
Wow,
today,
that was expensive.
Today I can go through 15,000 files by Friday.
Okay, that's wonderful.
That's what the technology does.
So let's get into DatumNexus and how big is the company? Tell us about it, because clearly I'm going to assume you sold Pure Data Corp.
Yeah, no, Pure Data Corp evolved into DatumNexus.
Gotcha.
So that's part of the journey, right? So what happened was I'm still I'm seeing this massive amounts of technology, and of course you got all of this code and all of that type of thing. So what I did, a friend of mine, she sent me an email. She said, Thomas, you may be interested in this. And what it was, the email was to apply to the Founders Institute, the one in Silicon Valley, right?
Gotcha.
And so, I am by no way a tech kid, as you can tell. But I said, I kind of hemmed and hawed about it. And then, somebody said, look, you might as well go ahead and do it. So I got into the Founders Institute, which changed the trajectory of everything that I'm doing, right?
Wow.
Because now I'm in the mindset of the VC world and how to take an idea that you want to use technology to create.
Gotcha.
And now how do I build a business around that? And so what happened was Pure Data Corp, my mom and pop, turned into DatumNexus, a Delaware corporation that started getting funding. so I had to change the thought process, right? The game was a little different, and then just
I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, but being in that cohort, I saw some of the most innovative minds. I saw some things that what people do in terms of taking an idea. I mean, the one guy I'm impressed with, he created a pill that had a camera in it, and you swallow it, and he can guide it through your body with a Sony PlayStation play stick, right? And it's going to change medicine. You'll see. But when you're around those type of people, then he's talking about that. I'm talking about my granddaddy and me, rolling paper, right? But it all worked out. And so that's where I got, in touch with my mentor. I met my mentor, the one who can keep me on track of taking this idea and making it bigger and making it happen.
Gotcha. So let's talk a little bit about some of the early challenges. So you went out and got some mentors, and you figured out how to organize the company. But you still are faced with different kinds of challenges. So let's talk about some of the early challenges and what you might have done to get over them. Because I'm going to assume that some of your challenges are still around. They're going to constantly be around. But let's navigate into your first product. You got the company, you got an idea, and so where are you guys now? What are some of the challenges?
Well, my first challenge, right, especially let's do on the Pure Data Corp days, is sometimes when you have an idea, you may be the only person that see it or understand it, right?
Always that way.
Right. And so now, so now you kind of stuck because you're limited as far as your own personal capabilities. And so when you have an ego, like, most attorneys do, you can't do this like I can do it. You can't do this better than I can do it. And the first hurdle that I had to get over was to get myself out of the way. And I had to learn how to trust the people around me to and tell them, and they had to trust me to say, when I say, hey, I'm going to get from A to B, right? And I'm going to trust you to get me from A to B. And the thing is, my COO, he talking about surrounding yourself with good people. I like having him around because he knew me from the pure data corp days, and so a problem that still I have to deal with is whenever things get busy or things start to get complex, he's that person that'll say, Thomas, you're falling back into, for lack of a better term, your pure data corp days, meaning you're starting to try to do it yourself. You don't have to.
Okay.
You have a team.
Okay.
And so the biggest challenge is.
Okay, you're gonna get to where I was going. Was that hard for you to make that personal change in your style?
Still is.
Okay, well, that's honest. That's honest. That's honest.
It is. Yeah, still is. I mean, but that's part of the journey. I mean, we had a wonderful meeting yesterday, and in terms of us discussing some things that we wanted to do with the with the product, and I realized that I was looking at a particular problem, right, a certain way, and then somebody on the team asked a question that changed my whole trajectory of thinking about the problem.
That's wonderful.
That one question probably is going to add a lot of value to what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, so that's, once I get out of the way, things tend to go better, right? Because my group is a little younger than me, and I'll do I do the old black grandfather thing real quick. I said, back in the day, I was rolling 8 on a.
Well, that's good. So okay, so you figured that out. Now, have you guys developed your well, let's talk a little bit more about the journey, the challenges, because my audience are business owners, folks that are interested in entrepreneurship, and you're teaching them right now. You talked a little bit about the team dynamics, trust, mentorship. Now I'm going to make some assumptions because I've started and sold a couple companies myself.
Yeah.
Where is this? Where's the product right now? You have several. It sounds like you have several. Talk a little bit about that.
The product itself, the way we position it right now, is a platform, and we're looking at going into 2 major industries. Which you go to the website, it's wireless and oil and gas, and just by looking at 2, you got an idea of the deals that I work with. I saw the problems, right? because you go in the area of what and so from the technology perspective, it's not like I'm saying I want to start a company and resell software or things like that.
I see.
And now the funny part about that, back up a little bit, when I was pure data corp, and when I was telling you about how how I had a problem of doing everything myself, what I did was I said, you know what? I don't really understand how this technology it's going to need to work. So I became an IBM partner, and I understood databases.
Okay.
Then I became Informatica partner, so I could understand business intelligence, right? And then then I became dealing with documents. I became that type of partner, right? And so what happens, so now what we did with our product, just taking that mindset and doing this thing, we were in the development phase. We had a successful MVP, the minimal viable product. And so now we are in a position working the product as a beta for the oil and gas industry and the cell tower and leasing industry, the wireless industry.
That's, but I would assume that the problem that you're dealing with is much bigger than just those 2 industries.
Oh, absolutely. It's you said it in the beginning. Ernst & Young said 53% of deals don't work. Deals are in every industry, right? I pick industries that I'm familiar with to start. Now, as we scale, I mean, we definitely going to find the industries where this particular product fits, right?
Gotcha.
I mean, our sweet spot is massive amounts of documents that give people headaches.
Oh, wow. That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, the average person don't know what that means. I mean, I've been on a project where there was a, you know how you have those little warehouses, right? I've been on a project where I was in a warehouse where documents were 3 stories high, 10 rows deep.
Yeah.
Right. It's a lot
Yeah.
of value and a lot of risk in those type of documents. And so I always end up around paper. I don't know.
Well, do you think that as we get more digital, that does the problem go away? Does it get easier to deal with? The thing that you bring up the most, and my background is healthcare. And when you're trying to merge 2 systems, it could be companies buying each other. It could be a new system that you're trying to integrate into your company. There are going to be data problems. So, but you mentioned paper and as we move away from paper, does the problem get smaller or just more complex?
Well, let me back up. Let's just say document, because the document can be digital as well, right? I mean, most companies had initiatives that took that warehouse full of paper and turned it into terabytes of documents now.
Gotcha.
Right?
I got you.
But all you did was is copy the problem. You just made the problem, digital, right? So Bill Gates said this one time. He said, if your processes or whatever are inefficient to start with, and then you apply technology to that inefficiency, you got a real bad problem, right? So what we try to do is to bring order out of chaos. So we can take the inefficiency and the chaos, and then we think through it like these high level, people with, machine learning and artificial intelligence, and we can quickly, and relatively speaking, quickly bring some order to that chaos, and hopefully get it to the point where the technology will magnify the efficiency.
Gotcha. So my next question to you is, you have the idea, you think you're onto something big. How did you convince people to help you along the way? Let's talk about that part, because you can't do it by yourself. Let's talk.
Again, I have to refer to my COO, right? Because he was there when I was doing the pure data thing. And so I would tell him, I said, man, I said, I'm going to make this company. I'm going to do this. And when I do this, I'm going to want you involved, because you got the type of, background that I need. So, on the journey, time passed. You don't realize how much time passed. But in my mind, I'll pick up the phone and call somebody, like I just talked to him yesterday, when it was like maybe years, right? So when I did the Founders Institute thing, and I'm like, oh man, I know I'm on to something. Now I got the right people. I said, let me call James, and let him know. When I called James, hey, how you doing? Hey man, how you doing? I want to get into what I want to talk to him about. So how you been? Oh yeah, man, I've been in Malaysia doing this and this and this and this. Like it had been like 5 or 6 years. So,
okay.
So I'm like, oh, I said, that thing I said I wanted to work on? And he said, yeah. I said, well, I'm doing it. And back then he knew what I was talking about. And so it was kind of an easy sell for him. And then you'll find that you'll have people that may not understand it, but they believe in you.
It's always the case.
And as long as you don't let them down, it's fine.
So what was harder? Was it harder to get people to join your team or to finance you? Because I'm going to assume. Well, let me not assume. How'd you finance this out of your? I mean, we know you're a multimillionaire. So
yeah, right. Yeah, right. Nah, man. I had 2 angel investors, right?
Okay.
One was a family member, one, the childhood friend, right?
Gotcha.
We grew up in the same neighborhood, and I remember talking to him about it, and he was interested in it, and then he basically just said, "Hey, look, he believed in me,
Gotcha.
right? And then as well as the family member, they believed in me, and so that was enough to to get us going to
That's beautiful.
to getting
That's
paid
beautiful.
data. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So you have the team now. You have some seed money, growing money. Let's talk a little bit about what because we have about 15 minutes left.
Okay.
And so I just want to make sure that people really appreciate the path that you're on. We know who you are, where you guys are going. What are you trying to do? What's the goal? What's the vision for DatumNexus?
I mean, the 4 phases, right? You want to take your idea, you want to develop your idea, then you want to grow, and then you want to scale. So we're right there between the going right into the growth phase. And so, so in order to do that, we have to strategically think, how we want to grow, and then and that are we going to grow by organically by getting projects and taking the money from the projects and reinvest it in the business, or are we going to grow inorganically and try to beat that 53%? By acquiring companies and not taking in that much risk, we're going to take our own medicine, right?
Gotcha.
And say, hey, well, maybe if we can strategically grow this way, right? So that's the kind of the things that we have to talk about now, because the hardest thing I think for me was, and I don't know if it's the background I came from, and I came from some humble beginnings, but the hardest thing for me was to think big, right? Because I could go and approach this thing with a hustle mentality. Man, I could jump in here and make a little bit, blah 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 blah, boom,
Gotcha.
or whatever, or I could think like a businessman and say, hey, I want to do this so I can get a 9-digit exit. And so I chose the path that I wanted to pursue, building a business around an idea that's going to get us to a 9-digit exit.
I think the audience needs to hear that, because, whether they're, Black or brown folks, you got a lot of people who have that mentality. So you really bring up a really, really big topic here, and that is making room for the impossible, right? Which is possible. You are operating in a space that is huge, which brings me to the question of competitors. I would assume, since you're disrupting this field, that you probably have folks who are either trying to compete with you. And I bring it up because you're an MBE, and are the companies that you're trying to sell to. Well, first, let's talk about the competitors. You got a lot of competitors out there, mimicking what you do?
Well, I'm going to answer that this way, right?
Okay.
If you and I were racing, right, I'm not going to look at you while I'm racing. I'm going to look at the finish line. So I don't know. And my goal is to be in front, so I don't see nobody to the left or the right. So if you ask me, I have any competitors, then I'm going to say, well, either they behind me or they don't exist. Right?
Okay. Okay. I bring it up because, I come from the healthcare industry, and sometimes being an innovator, like you said, is always challenging. But I guess you've defined the problem, and the folks that you're in the oil and gas understand what the problem is, right? So there's an opportunity for you. Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna be the first one to build a mousetrap, or you're gonna build a better mousetrap, right? So right now I'm the first one, and so they have yet to see what the mousetrap can do, but
that's wonderful,
and we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
I love it. I love it. Innovators on the cutting edge. You're doing some phenomenal things here. And so, I'm going to assume that there's some competition lurking around, because once you start hitting it big, folks are going to mimic you, because, I'd say a compliment is being mimicked all the time. So what advice would you...
Competition, let me say this real quick.
Okay.
It's the IP, right? is understanding what your intellectual property is and understanding how to establish your brand in a space that no matter who comes into that space, you're going to be the person, to be. And so if you come into, the space, then let's say the perfect, I mean, there's going to be competition, right? Then I'm going to look at the competition like this. I'm going to say, well, I want to grow inorganically by acquiring.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
it's just how you look at it.
So what's in store for the company over the next 12 to 18 months? What's your view?
We should be full on in the growth phase. We should be adding different features to our platform that's going to make it I don't want to say it's not going to make it more competitive. It's going to make it more hard to beat, right? And we just chose two unique spaces. I think that because of how it was built. When I walk into a room and I'm seeing all that, oh man, here's an opportunity. If 10 people walked in that room with me, I promise you 9 walked out while I was sitting there figuring out, the opportunity. Because gotcha. There's nothing sexy about, documents or dealing with all of that. It's not something that, oh, I'm in charge of, so-and-so and all of that. And you use that to your advantage. And that's what I basically do.
And I would assume that the benefit, the value proposition that these companies are going to gain, are you able to put a number on that?
Oh man, yes, I can put. There was an article about. It was an article in the NBA. The name of the article was "Cost of a Missed Notice," right? And it was about
the cost of the what?
Of a missed notice.
Okay.
So in other words, how some NBA player, his contract, he wanted to go to another team, but because of a missed notice, he couldn't go there, missed out on a lot of money, right? But let's say in my world, if me holding on to a piece of very valuable to my business, and I get to hold on to it for 5 years at a time, but I have to give you notice every 5 years that I want to hold on to it. And I forget 1 year and I don't give you notice, right? And you come and I go to you and keep saying, well, Thomas, you know what? You missed your notice, but I tell you what, we can renegotiate this thing. You give me $200,000 and I want to increase the rent by 20% and we good to go, right? Fine. Imagine when that happens 10,000 times.
Oh, yeah.
So most of the time it's 9-digit money. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So those are the kind of risks that we discover. Those are
you're gonna have
that we work on.
You're gonna have companies opening their doors very quickly to you once they get it. Now, in terms of the MBE, is that going to be an immediate impact? Because I have a view of an MBE. Sometimes it can be a way of holding you to a smaller percentage than you deserve. Mm-hmm. And so, what's your view on that?
When I went for my MBE status, it was a struggle for me to try to determine how or if I wanted to leverage it that way, right? Because on the one hand, I'm not looking for nobody to give me anything.
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
But I need you to see me. I need you to understand that I'm here.
Right.
So the thing is, I got a marketing team out in California who I met, and I would tell them, and they're not African American, and I would tell them, I said, look, I don't want to build this company saying that I'm a Black business.
Gotcha.
I want people to do business with me because we have a product that's a superior product and a service, right? Gotcha. Now, the fact that I'm an MBE, if you can, and it makes it a win-win for you, that's good, right? But sometimes you have to get through the door so they can see you. So yeah, if you registering as an MBE can get me into the place. If that can open the door and let me sell myself,
I love it. I love it. You're giving our listeners a lot of sage advice, and I love that. What advice would you give folks that are looking to mimic you? Because I love that you attached your current entrepreneurism to what you did when you were young.
Oh yeah, man.
And you went on and got some your JD and you're a legal expert. And I love that you're moving this down the path. And I'm sure you understand how to keep yourself and your company legally viable and protect your IP. What advice would you give people that listening to us advice on their ideas?
Put together the right team. Put together the team. The team is everything. If you want to build a viable organization that's going to take care of you and your team financially, put together the right team. Right now, if you're going to hustle and you want to how will you call it, hit a lick here, hit a lick there, then fine. You can. I mean, nothing wrong with that. Right. But the other day I was on a call with a company that is very interested in what we're doing. And the first question he asked me, said, look, I want to know, do you want to do this because you want to make money so you can have a wonderful retirement? Or do you want to build a company where you can have $1 billion valuation? And I said, well, if I'm in the game, I'm going to swing for the fence. So if I'm playing the game, I'm going to swing for the fence.
Okay.
And so that's the first thing you got to decide. Okay, how big do you want it to be, right?
Gotcha.
How big do you want it to be, and then after that, it's just a matter of setting goals and surrounding yourself with people that can help you get there.
So I'm going to assume that proof of concept have been established already.
Yeah, that's our MVP, the minimum viable product. Yeah.
I got you. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, because I remember writing that down. So now that you have that, I mean, you're golden. And wow. So do you want to take the next few minutes to kind of describe anything about the product or the company? The time is yours.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing, it's a unique platform that will help corporations that grow themselves inorganically by acquiring other companies and know that they're going to be dealing with risk. It's a wonderful platform for that. And the Datum is a brand, right? You notice my name of the company is DatumNexus, right? The product that we've been talking about offhand is Datum, right? So DatumNexus is a three-headed monster, right? DatumNexus sits up top, Datum join it together, Nexus, right?
Gotcha.
So what am I joining together? Validatum, the tool that validates, identify, verify, validate, and identify risk, right? But then there's another component that I put together because every time I would have to do a project at Pure Data Corp, I need to put together certain kind of people in order to get through the documents. So I created Datum Cadre, like an army. So I got an army of people that can deal with technology that deals with Datum, and DatumNexus draw it all together. And so I trademarked all of those, right? And
as you should.
Yeah, no, I mean because it's in order to get it done, there are certain skill sets that have to be paired with a certain tool, right? And so Validatum is the tool. Datum Cadre, I can go on that platform and find the skill sets anywhere in the country, and then DatumNexus is gonna get a project for us to pull it all together and do it, right? So that's how we kind of organize.
Well, I loved how you said inorganic growth, but I'm going to assume that this product could be used organically in other ways other than just M&A activity. Am I correct in my?
Man, I'm glad.
I know that's how you're trying to start, but I'm unassuming.
Well, yeah, we're trying to start, but my mantra, it goes back to when you were talking about competition, right? My mantra is our byproducts equal other people's core competencies, right? Nobody is going to handle paper the way that we can handle paper. Nobody's going to be able to put together a team to handle paper or documents the way that we can handle documents, right? So you're dealing with somebody who had a fascination with documents since they were 5, right? Printing signing envelopes. So that fascination never stopped. And so I kind of evolved with the industry, right? And the shameless plug, DatumNexus.co, right? You can go there and at DatumNexus.co, and then on all social media. And we got showcase pages that talk about Validatum and Datum Cadre of everything that we do and how it all ties together.
Well, Thomas Wade, thank you so much. That brings us to the end of our time together. I just want to say he's absolutely right. It's datanexum.co and not .com. I've made that mistake. And so I'm telling you, please go look at them, look at their website, look at their products, follow this company. They're doing some exceptional work in a space that I think is alive and vibrant. Thomas, my hat's off to you. I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Next Big Thing. I'm your host, Keith D. Terry. If you've enjoyed this episode and you'd like to support this podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and a review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on my YouTube channel at Keith D. Terry. If you want to recommend a guest, please email me at info@terryperformancegroup.com. This has been produced by your host and Jade Productions.